All right, so welcome back, everyone. It's lovely to have you all back today. And so we're going to do pretty similar to what we did yesterday. I have a tip, another a tip today that I thought of this morning that I think would be useful. And then we'll go around, check on how everyone's doing, and then we'll get down to business and actually practice the thing. So my tip for today is to ask yourself throughout the day, whenever you think of it, and you can put notes around or your reminders to remind yourself, but check in with yourself and ask yourself this question: am I choosing this moment? In every moment you can, ask yourself, am I choosing this moment? And the reason for that is because we spend the vast majority, 98 to 99% of our time on automatic. So we're just automatically feeling, automatically thinking, and automatically responding and acting. So when you start asking yourself, am I choosing this moment? Then the answer may be yes or no, but you have that power in that moment to choose. And you may choose, to not feel good, and that's okay as well. So the key with this little bit is that you are choosing. So whether you choose, so I know a while ago, I used to get really irritable with technology. And sometimes I would become aware that I could change my state. I could walk away. I could do something happy. I could, do something I liked. I could think of something I loved. I could do this exercise, but I chose. I thought, no, I want this to work and it must work. But it was still my choice. And it's the choice that empowers you. Even if you choose not to be happy, it still empowers you because it's you choosing it. And so getting into that habit of, am I choosing this moment? And I see it as like cruise control, cruise control on your car. And that cruise control is on all the time, basically, until you hit the brake or change speed or take the cruise control off. And that's the equivalent of this question. Am I choosing this moment? Is like taking your car off cruise control for now, and either going faster or slower or doing whatever you want to do with that speed. Does that kind of make sense to everyone?
Odille, maybe just a little clarification around the fact that it is about choosing your emotional state. We may not have any choice or control over the physical circumstances that are happening in our lives, but it's about choosing your emotional state.
That's right. Yes. Thank you for clarifying that, Steve. Yes. So whatever's going on around you, and you may have physical symptoms or whatever, and of course you're not choosing those things. So thank you. Yeah. It's, am I choosing this moment in how I feel and where I'm putting my focus? So, which means, so I'll give you an example, just going about your day feeling just meh, not particularly excited, not particularly unexcited, but just meh. Those are the times when you're kind of cruising in that kind of uninspired state. Those are the times when you ask yourself, am I choosing this moment? And in that moment, you have the choice to go and feel excited. Open your heart, do the exercise, think of something you love, think of things you're grateful for, use your touchstone. So, yes, thank you, or I love my life. That's changing, that's taking your car off cruise control in that moment. So, and, when we're triggered, when we're upset or angry or frightened or whatever, that's one thing, that's noticeable. But when we're Blair, that's the time that it can be sneaky, when we don't notice. Now, if I had everything I wanted, is this how I would be feeling? Is this how, if I had suddenly had all the money I wanted, the relationship I wanted, the health I wanted, and so on, how would I be feeling right now? Because and what would I be thinking about? Because whatever you're feeling and whatever you're thinking about is determining the direction you're going in. And so am I choosing this moment also means, am I choosing to face the direction I want to go in and not just the default setting. So I hope that helps. And of course, I'm happy to answer questions on that. And so someone says, I like to ask myself, how good am I willing to feel? Oh, I like that a lot. Yes. How good am I willing to feel? I love that. Allowing yourself. Yes. How good am I willing to feel? Oh, yes. I love that, Kara. Thank you for sharing that. That's fantastic. So there's another tip there from Kara. You can make a note of that if you like. How good am I willing to feel? Really like that. Cool. All right. So now we can go around and check in with each person, how you're doing. And if your camera's not on, I won't ask you. But if your camera's not on and you would like to check in, then just unmute yourself. You're very welcome to, of course. And if you aren't on camera and you want to put it in the chat, that's also okay. All right, so starting with Katrina. Hey, Katrina, how are you today? And any questions and how's it going?
Today I was extremely tired, really tired and really, yeah, tired and feeling sluggish and my attention was brought to I'm actually doing more exercise and doing lots of things that I wouldn't have been doing, and yet the weight seems to be creeping on. And so I sort of worked on that this morning, that the weight, what did I say? Putting on weight, and it's this comparison thing, comparing myself with my mother. It's gone back to that. I probably haven't cleaned that up properly. Right. She was small and carried weight, and I'm, you know, and it's like, oh God, you're getting like your mother, and it's like, so that was sort of pulling me. I was pulling me down, but yeah, I went out on my bike and I sort of, you know, stop it. And maybe we could target that as we're going around, you know, why you target.
Absolutely, yes. And were you, just a quick question, were you able to love you and the weight, and regardless of whether you are like your mum or not?
I forgot to do that bit.
It's okay. It's easy to forget. And so we'll do that today. Very good. So that's something you can do, because, you know, the weight thing, there's a lot that can be contributing to that. So, you know, there's a lot around that. That's a whole topic on its own, but at the very least, what you want to do is take away the judgment and the emotional attachment to it, because that's one of the first things that will then allow any change to happen, in addition, of course, to being healthy and in other ways as well. So starting with loving your whole body exactly as it is, and loving the fact, you know, that you are like your mother. So if you are like your mother, loving that anyway, loving it all anyway. So that's the beginning that will allow you to move forward with any other changes. It'll open the door. Yeah. And then, so it starts there. And then, of course, yes, there's so much around that in the other work regarding childhood memories that I won't go into now, because it's a lot, but yeah, so there's things like, you know, how do I know it's not good to have weight? What's wrong with weight? What's the worst thing about it? What's the worst thing about my mum? Because also it could be that you are subconsciously trying to be like her in order to get some kind of connection, because you mentioned that she was distant and cold. So it could be an unconscious way of being the same as her to try, because our drive is to get love and approval and acceptance from whoever raised us, even if they were terrible people. It's just, that's human nature, because our survival relies on the people who raise us. We're not designed to survive on our own. So we will unconsciously do whatever it takes to try and get acceptance, approval, love, affection for survival purposes. And sometimes that can mean trying to be like them. Sometimes it can mean going the opposite. There's all different depending on what else is in there. So those are just a few things you can look at to make some changes. Does that sound good?
That sounds brilliant. Thank you.
Good. You're very welcome. And of course, the most important part of all that is the unconditional love, is using that power to get into the state where you're able to do all of that. Very good, Katrina. Thank you for sharing that. And it's so lovely to have you with us. Oh, so Katrina says, so regarding your mum, I never wanted to look like her. So you are saying I would love to look like her. I have to tell myself this. So Katrina, what I'm saying is not consciously. I'm going to unmute you so that in case you need to. It doesn't mean you consciously want to look like her. It means that there's the survival part of you. So think of it this way. If there was a duck, that sounds completely random, but there's a duck, and it's born, and it's surrounded by cats. Okay, so this duckling, I'm making this up as I go, so I hope it's going to make sense in the end. But this duckling finds itself amongst cats, and it's not happy because it doesn't feel like cats are, it can't seem to fit in. Now it's going to do whatever it can to pretend to be a cat, or to appear like a cat, or to adopt, to fit in, to survive. Because if the cats figure out that this is not a kitten, they're going to kill it, abandon it, it will die in some way. So it's nature for us to try and fit in with our tribe. And whether that is, by behavior, or by the way we look, or whatever, whatever form that takes, will depend on what else is there, what other references we have. So looking like someone, and again, this is unconscious, this is absolutely not conscious, but looking like someone is a way to unconsciously connect with them. Because if I want to make sure that you like me, and I am too different from you, you may not like me. So I'm going to try and mirror you. I'm going to try and look like you, perhaps, if that's what references I have, in order to automatically make that connection. Does that make sense? It's important to remember it's unconscious. It's definitely not conscious.
I just got totally lost there. I have to listen to it again.
That's okay. Yes, absolutely.
As you were talking there, I had 3 brothers, and I always wanted to be, I can remember at different stages, and probably when I was quite young, I wanted to be a little boy, because, I mustn't have felt that I fitted in, but
yes.
Yeah, so just when you're talking about the duck and the cats or something.
Yeah, so that's a possibility. And here's the thing, if from what you were saying, your mum was cold, so you didn't have that warmth and that support and all of that, you would have been looking for any way to get that, because that feels unsafe. When we don't get affection as children, it's not about the affection, it's about survival. To that part of us, that to the unconscious part of us, what you call it, evolution part of us, survival depends on those around us, because we could die at any minute. They could kill us, they could abandon us, and we can't survive on our own. And if we're rejected by the tribe, that's the equivalent of death, as far as that, you know, old part of us is that instinctive part of us is concerned. So when we aren't getting affection, affection is reassurance that we are accepted and that we're valuable enough to feed and keep alive and protect. When we aren't getting affection, there is that huge doubt that we may not be fed, we may be abandoned, or we may be killed, as far as the unconscious part of us is concerned. So children come up with automatically and unconsciously different ways of trying to make sure that they have some kind of security of survival, some kind of reassurance that they'll survive. And sometimes that is, you know, rebelling and trying to fit in with a different tribe, or sometimes it is doing whatever it takes to get negative attention, because at least that's attention, because at least that's engagement. There's something there, and it means that I can keep trying to improve. I can keep trying to get your attention. I can keep trying to get your approval, your love, that currency that is essential for survival, which is affection and approval. Does that make sense?
I have no idea, but
you can watch the recording again to just get that. Because also what may be happening there is, as I'm speaking, your brain may be shutting it off to protect you, and that's okay. Then just gently listen to it again later, you know, and see it in different ways, and of course ask questions for clarification. But looking like your mum makes perfect sense, or you know, worried about looking like your mum, unconsciously looking like your mum, that whole subject there, considering your mum wasn't forthcoming with the approval and the affection and the love and the warmth, makes perfect sense.
But I didn't want her. I didn't want her love. I didn't want to be held by her. It seems so strange.
Yes, and the reason for that will just be because it became so foreign.
Well, I'm going to die here.
Pardon?
My battery's going to die here.
I'll keep talking so that you can watch it in the recording. So the part of you, the child in you, would still have, there would have been a point in your life where that little you was needing your mum's attention, approval, and love, before you learned that she was cold, she wasn't forthcoming with it, she was reserved, however that was demonstrated. So although you were trained out of it consciously, so you consciously don't want her love because it feels weird and that, but that unconscious part of you still would have been striving for it, because that's human nature and that's our instinct. And so while you were consciously going, I don't want it, I don't need it, or whatever, your subconscious was going, we have to find a way. We have to find some kind of way in order to survive. So it's separating the conscious from the subconscious, and remembering the differences between them. That the conscious mind is a completely different, it works in a completely different way to the subconscious, which is just all about survival. The conscious mind is all about making sense of things. So hopefully that helps. And if you watch this recording and kind of see if you can pause it and rewind and all that if you like, but then also ask if something doesn't make sense or you need more clarification on something, absolutely, you know, feel free to ask. So
yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Yeah.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
I don't want to muddy the water anymore, but I will add just one other thought to that.
Yeah.
That, the feelings that were generated as growing up in childhood. So that feeling of, I don't want that, I don't want her love. So it became a coping technique, but then it also became a normal state of being. So again, it It's not something that necessarily felt good, but your brain and body got used to that feeling. It got used to that neurochemical state of, I don't like this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So now subconsciously, your brain is going, that feels normal. So now let me come up with a way. I need a new dance partner to create that feeling. So if my mom isn't here anymore to help me feel that way, I can now look in the mirror and create that feeling for myself. So that may be another path or another avenue that's there for that too.
That's really, yeah, spot on, Steve. So Katrina, that's definitely worth looking at. Is Steve's right there? That feeling of, I don't want that. Yeah, it's recreating now by looking like her and not wanting it. Yeah, fantastic. Good job, Steve. All right, and Kara. Good morning, Kara.
Morning.
Hey, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. And any questions, comments?
I love what you just said, because I think I find myself feeling like I'm my mother sometimes.
Right.
And I don't want to be those ways.
Yeah.
So what you just said really makes a lot of sense and explains that.
Good.
You know, that I'm just finding a way to connect with her. And I can see how that would also extend to trying to please our parents, living our life in a certain way, even though, I mean, both of my parents are gone, but I think there's ways I am living my life that would please them if they were here.
Yes.
You know, so.
Because also, although consciously both of your parents are gone, your subconscious does not know that.
Right.
The subconscious, everything is now.
Yeah.
The whole of your childhood is happening right now as far as the subconscious is concerned, including any departed parents.
Yeah. Well, plus I changed the memories that they're not gone.
Right. Okay. So yes. So that in addition, yes. Fantastic. Yeah. So that makes perfect sense. And so if you were to be able to choose how you want to be, so decide, like, I want to be like this, and then make sure you've got childhood memories of your mother being like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's how to change.
Yeah, I did that with the outer things, but I haven't done it as much with the inner aspects of my mother.
So that's great. There's some good, strong stuff there, because I've all through this work that that we do, that I've done on myself, I've always felt, for me, the challenge is finding the links, the references, and that once you find them, that's fantastic, because you can change them. So
Right.
It's always wonderful to find the actual, when you find those references. So that's great that you've discovered that. Well done. Good job. And how's it been going with practicing the exercise, the Superpower?
I don't remember as often as I would like, and I started setting a timer a couple days ago, and it went well for one day. And then the next day I forgot to set it. So I'm going to get back to that today.
Wonderful. And another little tip that I've given people in the past is, if you, and I know, during lockdown, we're limited with what we have in our homes, but if you have a bowl, preferably glass or a glass, and you fill that glass with something like beads or grapes or whatever you've got around your home, and every time you do the exercise, take one out and put it into another container. And then by the end of the day, the glass must be empty. And I say glass so that you can see them, so it makes it easier to remember, because if it's a mug or something, you may just not realize. But if it's glass, and then you can move them, or a bowl, and move them into another container. And then by the end of the day, the glass container must be empty and the other one needs to be full.
I was trying that with chocolate chips, but it didn't work out so well.
It wouldn't with me either, Steve. No, that's a great idea. That I think would work much better for me than the timer. Because the timer, I can just shut it off and then I don't remember to reset it. And so, yeah.
That's it. And it's nice to have something physical to do as well.
Yeah.
Okay? Plus the visual that you're noticing it. And it means that when you get to the, towards the end of the day and you've still got a few left, you could just do the exercise several times, in a row. That's okay too.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Kara, for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Odille, I know that we were still kind of developing this this line of thinking a little bit earlier this morning, but I think that that conversation that we were having about the importance of the neuroscience behind repetition, if you could just speak on that just a little bit, because I think that that also helps, on another level of why it's important to continue to the practice.
Right. Yes. So thank you for reminding me about that, Steve. So just to give a very tiny snippet of what this memory consolidation. So in the brain, the hippocampus, you may have heard of the hippocampus related to memory, and the hippocampus actually is just for short-term memory, for spatial memory and short-term memory. So when you learn something or when you experience something new, it's that information is in the hippocampus, and if you repeat it, if it's important enough for you to repeat, like let's say a new phone number or a new childhood memory, the repetition is crucial to move it into long-term memory, which is stored in a different place in the brain. So what we want to do is move these new memories and the superpower exercise, the practicing the superpower exercise, because that creates new memory as well. All of that, we want to practice it enough that it moves into the long-term memory part of the brain so that it becomes automatic. So, the part of the equivalent to, if somebody asks my name, I react immediately, or I see an orange and I know it's an orange, even though I can't remember how I learnt it was an orange. So that's the kind of the part of the equivalent. We want these memories, the new memories and the superpower exercise and all of that, the new stuff, to be repeated enough for it to actually be moved into the long-term part of the brain. And repetition is the only way to do that apart from trauma. So trauma experiences will immediately be stored as a long-term memory because of the involvement of the amygdala, the fight, freeze, flight thing. But apart from that, repetition is the only way to really consolidate those memories, number one. And number two, sleep allows the brain to process memory and consolidate it. And again, what happens during sleep is that memory is separated. So information is separated during sleep from the source, so that this is how our learning, we establish our learning. So again, during the day, I may have experienced something with an orange, and I learned that this is an orange and the color is orange. And then at some point I go to sleep, and in the brain then separates the fact that I learned it because this person told me, and it was sunny outside, and all of those details. It takes out the information that is an orange. I must remember in future that when I see that thing, it's called an orange, and it is an orange color or whatever that is. So that's just a very tiny little bit of how memory is processed while we're sleeping. So that's the importance of allowing yourself to sleep. And so, Katrina, I know you were saying earlier about feeling very tired today. And when that happens, especially when you're making a lot of changes mentally, so you're making a lot of changes in your brain, allow yourself to have extra sleep. Go with that feeling. So I'm feeling really tired. then don't do anything that doesn't need to be done today. Relax, rest, and get extra sleep so that your brain can process, because your brain is pulling energy to try and process that stuff, and it's making your body feel tired. So hopefully that helps. And so I think that was pretty much what I was talking about this morning, wasn't it, Steve? Is that everything? And a little bit extra, because I hadn't talked about the sleep thing this morning, but.
Well, yeah, and I think just another way of emphasizing the importance of doing the exercises, that it's not only just to feel good in the moment, it is that you're building those neural pathways, and it's becoming more of an automatic process. The more you do it, the easier it becomes, and that's
right.
the reason why.
As it moves into the long-term memory part of the brain, I say part of the brain, it's not one part, but you know, when as it becomes a long-term memory physiologically in your brain, that's when it becomes easier and more natural and more automatic, and then you don't have to try as hard. Thank you, Steve. And Kara, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, I just wanted to understand what you just explained about the brain separating. So would you say then, we've learned this tip from you this morning about choosing.
Yes.
So when I go to sleep, my brain's not going to connect that with this chat, I mean, with this Zoom meeting. It will just take the information.
Partly. So I think there's a lot more involved in it, and it won't necessarily do it today. So every time that information is brought forward, so every time we recall a memory, it changes, but it also is, you know, becomes more established, and eventually, with the processing while we're sleeping, bits and pieces it processes in different ways. So the example I want to give you is, if you think about how to drink out of a mug, you can't remember, presumably you can't remember how you learned to drink out of a mug. You just know how to do it. So yeah. And so it doesn't necessarily happen with all memories. So for example, you'll remember, you know, an event that happened, you'll remember this yesterday, right? And you'll remember who was here, or some of the people that were here, and that. So the brain takes out information it thinks is not, so it separates according to what appears to be important.
Okay.
To moving forward, to survival, to, you know, becoming more stronger, and all of that kind of thing. We're all basically related to survival. Does
okay. Yeah, that helps a lot. Can I ask one more question that's a little bit off topic?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. So Bruce Lipton talks about that the best time to program our mind is when we're in theta. And that we're in theta as we're going to sleep and as we're waking up.
Yes.
But if I have a long self-hypnosis tape I listen to that I'm sure a lot of it is happening when I'm asleep in delta. So is that still working, or does it have to be theta?
So that is actually a great question. And I know I used to listen to self-hypnosis tapes as well, and the same sort of thing, you know, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and thinking, well, I was definitely fast asleep during that because I was dreaming. But so I think I don't know a lot, you know, on the topic, but what I think from the bits that I do know that the brain does not go to sleep. I do know that while our consciousness reduces, the brain itself is still busy. So that delta state where we think, well, delta is when we're asleep, the brain is still doing stuff. It's just doing different stuff to what it does when we're awake. And part of that, from what they know, so that, you know, not a lot is known about sleep right now. Even after all of the scientific research and that, they still don't know exactly why we sleep. But one of the things they do know is that while we are sleeping, the brain appears to be processing memories. So what they think happens is that it runs through what happened during the day, pulls out bits that seem to be important, separates it from bits that don't seem to be important, and consolidates the memories that we need to. So we're constantly growing. Every day we experience stuff where information is being processed and added. So that indicates to me that even when you are in delta, it's still possible for that information to be going in, because your brain is still, your ears certainly can still hear, because your ears don't close off or anything. And your brain is still awake, just in a different state. So it's just that you're not consciously aware. Does that kind of help a bit? That's really the closest I can, as much as I can, as you know, as much as my knowledge allows.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. And so going on to Carrie. Hi, Carrie.
Hi. So I've been doing well,
Good.
but then again, I can't sleep at night, so.
Right.
And I have a feeling that you are all to thank for that.
Okay.
So thank you for letting me sleep.
You're very, very welcome. I'm so glad to hear that.
And well, the issue that I have noticed this week is that I am kind of unable to meditate because I feel like maybe doing the superpower exercise would be more important.
Okay. Okay. So I think that, you know, I do both, and Steve does as well. We both meditate as well. But having said that, two things. First of all, I couldn't meditate before I got to master in the superpower. And even for a while after that, I couldn't get myself to sit still for long enough to meditate. But I was spending most of the day in the superpower state. And for me, that was enough. But then actually not long ago, probably, I don't know, a few months ago, towards the end of last year, something like that, I suddenly had this urge to meditate. And so I then started, when I get up, I don't switch on the lights or anything. I just come through and just sit quietly and meditate. Now, while I do a combination, so the meditation, I do the Vipassana, is that what it's called? Vipassana, whatever it's called.
Vipassana.
Vipassana. So it's just feeling the breath under your nose, breathing in and out, and focusing on that, and then noticing any feelings in the body and recognize that that's feeling, thought. It's there. You can look it up on YouTube. So I do that to begin with, and then I do the superpower while I'm in meditation. So then I open my heart, I go through the whole, just feeling it spreading out, and then I aim it at different people, events, things, that are happening in the world, and then go back to the Vipassana state before then coming out. And so in that varies, the amount of time varies. It depends on how long I feel like doing it. So you can do both. You can combine them if you like. Does that help?
Well, I had always tried to get into this state of the superpower before I meditated.
Okay.
Just in case I fell asleep.
Yes. Well, and that's okay.
I was finished.
Yeah, so you can do both. So, you could do that. And if you find you're not able to get into the superpower state, then perhaps go into the meditative state first. And if you fall asleep, it doesn't matter. You can do it when you wake up. You can go back into the superpower. But it may help you to get into the superpower by going into the meditative state first. And you can switch it up. Sometimes you can do it like that, and sometimes you can go into the superpower first. So, but the most important thing with the superpower is that you can do it during the day when you don't have to sit still. It doesn't have to be a meditation. So, excuse me, I think that's where the biggest benefits come is if you're doing it while you're doing other things, while you're washing your dishes, while you're taking a shower, while you're brushing your teeth, while you're sitting here right now. So you can, the great thing is, although when we do it here, we do it as a kind of, meditative state, we close your eyes, deep breath and all that, and we focus on it. The aim of it, the goal of it is for it to become part of who you are all the time in everyday life. So when we are, for example, right now, as I'm speaking to you, I'm in that state all the time. So that's the idea, is to be in that state as much as you can in your daily life, because that's when you're strong. That's when you are your authentic self, and it will be affecting everything you do. It will be affecting what you notice, the ideas you come up with, problem solving. It will affect obviously your connection with other people, and how your health, of course, and all of that kind of thing. The more it becomes part of who you are, and it's a little bit of a challenge to get there, because one keeps forgetting. I don't know if you've ever tried to change your posture. So, if you kind of tend to sit like this, which I used to, and then sit up straight, and you keep having to, remind yourself, or anything like that, or you maybe chew your nails, or whenever there's something that you do unconsciously and automatically, and you have to keep reminding yourself. This is the same thing. So you're going about your day feeling whatever level is your status quo normally, and then it's reminding yourself, oh, superpower, feel the love, open my heart, color, subject, however you get into it, phrase or word. So it's just remembering to stand up straight. Or whatever, whatever sort of you remember to stop biting your nails or something like that. So does that help a little bit?
Yes.
Good job, Carrie. And thank you for sharing. And I'm so proud of you.
And I wanted to say that it is not even necessary for me to feel a little love in order to send it.
Sorry, say that again. It's
not necessary for me to feel the love in order to send it.
Well,
and actually, I have noticed that sometimes people and objects around me will respond when I'm just sending love, like when I'm shining a light into a dark place.
Yeah. Fantastic. So that's great. And so that absolutely is it's good to do that. And in addition to that, be sure to keep practicing filling yourself with it as well. So filling all the cells of your body as well before aiming it. And as you say, even if you can't feel it, make sure that that's your intention. And as you practice it, you'll start to feel it more and more.
Yes.
Good job. Well done.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Good job. All right. And on to Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl. How are you doing today?
Hi. Well, I was very tired after yesterday.
Right.
I decided to take it easy for the day. And then I don't know what time it was, and all of a sudden I said, I've got to watch those videos. I have this session in the morning. I've got to do my homework. I was avoiding it all day. So I did all my homework. I watched, thank you, Steve, for the videos. I watched the videos. I watched a lot of your videos, so many of your different videos.
Oh, okay.
And it was very enlightening. And then I was supposed to write the letter to the justice letter, but I wasn't really sure who I was to write that to, if it was myself, and if I wasn't exactly sure of the whole thing. And I had already done so much that I decided to let myself off the hook for the day. And I also sort of made myself, because I was feeling really embarrassed about yesterday and sort of like I knew I would, like a little disgusted with myself. So then I decided that I forced myself to watch the video, yesterday's video, and then I had some, I was, I don't know, I was just like, okay, be nice to yourself. Like I kind of built up a little compassion. And that's when that was kind of what started me off to have a different attitude towards myself. So I would like to do the letter, but I'm not really sure how to do it. And I also did the, I told you, I did the video about the redoing the childhood, which was very interesting. So I'm going to explore that further.
Oh, good, good, good. I'm glad you found that interesting. So with the letter, so first of all, well done for doing all of that. And most of all, well done for building that compassion for yourself and for giving yourself some time off. That, you know, that's really important. So well done for that.
And I just want to add too, when Carol said the nice thing to me after,
Yes.
you know, when I was watching that just made me really feel so good and sad, but like, I don't know, I just had a really big reaction to that. Someone being kind to me really felt good. So thank you.
Yes, and so that is an indication of a little child, the little you really needing that, you know,
Yeah.
when you were little and not getting it. So, you know, one of the things that we teach is to give the little you now what they should have been given when they were little, when you were little. So anything that should have been said to you as a child, you know, make sure you create memories of that. Number one, you saying it to little you, but also hear your parents and teachers in that saying to little you. So well done, Cheryl. I'm really proud of you and very excited for you, because this is just the beginning of that kind of empowerment. As for the letter, so if I'm remembering correctly, your mum was alcoholic and you were her caretaker. You were saying yesterday. So I would start with your mum. I would start by addressing the first due justice letter to your mum from the little you. Because if she hadn't done whatever she did, you wouldn't have been put in that position. If she had been the caretaker, then that little you would have had a normal childhood, a happy childhood, or whatever. So whatever that little you feels and thinks, start with your mum first, I would say.
Okay.
Get everything out. Remember to be as vicious and, you know, unforgiving as possible, because two reasons. Number one, no one's ever going to see it. No one's ever going to know what you wrote. This is only for you. And number two, anything you don't express stays in you. So you want to make sure you get all that stuff out, anything, you know, even if it's unreasonable. And so what a lot of the times we find ourselves going, like writing what we think or what we feel, and another part of us goes, well, they were doing the best they could, or well, I deserved it, or whatever that is. Make sure you nip those in the bud. This is not the place for those thoughts. This is just, I don't care. You were blah, 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 blah. So, you know, and swear and, you know, get all and see it as anything that comes up then is already inside you. It's already there. That's where it's coming from. So this is not about creating anger or frustration or meanness.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's already there. All you're doing is cleaning it out. And so the intention behind it is to get rid of it, to clear it, so that you're able to then when you finish the letter and you are then in a position to look at it and say, well, you know, if they'd been raised differently, they would have been different, and you know, they were doing the best they can. Then all of that is genuine, and there's nothing in the background going, but this isn't fair and it shouldn't have, you know what I mean? You've got all of
Yeah.
that out. And if you think about it as the child in you, finally somebody stood up for her. Finally,
Oh, that's
somebody
nice.
is standing up for her. And if you think about it as an adult, if you were there now and you were witnessing, if you could go back in time and you could see that little you experiencing what she was experiencing, you would step in and go, excuse me, but this is not acceptable. This is not how this child should be treated. And this is what's happening. As far as the child in you is concerned, finally someone is standing up for her. And if there's any excusing in the letter, so if, you know, so we've had people who they do the letter and then they end with, but I forgive you, and, you know, it's okay, you know, anything redemption, any kind of redemption in that letter, the equivalent of that is the child being hurt. And then you go to the person, you say, you shouldn't have done this, but, you know, it's okay. And that child hears that. And it means, I'm still not worthy. You know, I'm not important enough. They've been let off the hook. Do not let them off the hook in this letter. Okay.
Okay.
So this letter is not for letting people off the hook. There's no excuse for anything anybody did.
Okay.
That comes after the healing. Or that comes after this as part of the healing.
Okay.
All right.
That makes sense. I like that. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome, Cheryl. Thank you for sharing. All right. And so now we have the chat. We have, let's go back. Lisa, this is perfect advice. Choosing love, excitement, and joy. Very beautiful for a most magnificent life. Thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you for sharing that. And all right. And Kara says trance breaker. I'm not sure what that was in relation to. But if you want to clarify it, Kara, yeah.
Oh, it was when you were talking about the ESC, the superpower.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So
Absolutely.
it takes us out of the automatic pilot.
Right. Yes, that's right. A trance breaker. Absolutely. Yes. So when you're in the trance of the negative state or memories or thoughts or whatever, the superpower is breaks that trance. Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. All right. And someone else says, children behave a lot like that. My little girl imitates her friends a lot. The same clothes, same toys. Looks very important to her. It makes sense. Good job. That's really good, Steve. I was thinking she felt anger, a defense. Yes. Okay. So I think that's everything from the chat and the check-ins. So the time is sped by. So let's do the exercise. All right. And of course, you continue to ask questions if you have, but in the meantime, we'll do the process. So deep breath, close your eyes and go into your superpower state. However you do that, using your word or phrase or using the exercise. Feel your heart opening. Feel that expansion in your chest and that light or energy shining out from it. And now feel that light or energy, that love and appreciation spreading down to your toes, up to the top of your head, and out to your fingertips. So you're now full of that light, that energy. Imagine it filling each of the 50 trillion cells that make up your body. Love each cell just for existing. And now think of your subject. Keep your subject filled with that light, that energy, that love and appreciation, even as they reject you, they don't want to be with you. Maintain that state. Love them anyway, no matter what. Very good. And now let's shine that light, that energy at Katrina. Fill Katrina with that beautiful light or energy from the tips of her toes to the top of her head, out to her fingertips. Love her just for existing. Love every aspect of Katrina. She's perfect exactly as she is. And now imagine that light or energy overflowing from her and filling the mirror she's looking at and looking in. The image in the mirror, see that being filled with light and love, that energy. Love that image, that mirror image exactly as it is without needing it to change. And watch that light or energy overflowing from that image and filling the whole room Katrina's in. Very good. And now let's go on to Kara and fill Kara with that light or energy from the tips of her toes to the top of her head and out to her fingertips. Love Kara just for existing, exactly as she is. She's perfect as she is. Very good. And now on to Lisa. Let's fill Lisa with that same light or energy from the tips of her toes to the top of her head, out to her fingertips. Love Lisa just for existing. Good job. And now on to Cheryl. Fill Cheryl with that same light or energy from the tips of her toes to the top of her head, out to her fingertips. And love Cheryl just for existing, exactly as she is. Very good. And now on to Carrie. Fill Carrie with that same love, that light, that energy from the tips of her toes to the top of her head, out to her fingertips. So she's now full of that energy, that light. Love Carrie just for existing. And allow that love, that light, that energy to overflow from Carrie and fill her daughter with that same love, that light, that energy. Love that little girl just for existing, exactly as she is. Very, very good. And now to all those who are on the call but don't have their camera on, send that light, that energy, that love to each of them. Fill them from their tips of their toes to the tops of their heads, out to their fingertips. Love each one of them just for existing. Very good. And now I want you to think of you later today, that version of you, whatever you're doing later today, fill that version of you with that love, that light, that energy. Love that version of you just for existing, no matter what. And now the child you, the little you, fill that child with that same light or energy, that love. I'm going to do something a little bit different now. And some of you may not be able to do it, some of you may, and it doesn't matter. Just have a go and practice it until you are able to do it. I want you to think of your parents. When you were a child, imagine you're both your parents and fill them with that light, that energy, that love and appreciation no matter what. So love them exactly as they are. Imagine them being filled with that light or energy from the tips of their toes to the top of their head and out to their fingertips, shining light into any darkness. And now imagine that light or energy overflowing from your parents and filling the little you. So that light, that energy, that pure, unconditional love power is shining from your parents' hearts into the little you and filling that little you with that pure, unconditional love power. Very, very good. And you can open your eyes. And how was that for everybody? Was that good? All right, good job. And any questions, any clarifications? How was your experience of doing it with the parents? That was something that just occurred to me now as we were doing it. I just kind of came up with that idea. So hopefully that was helpful. But if you have any queries or questions about that, let me know. Lisa says, very good. Good job. Love that so much. Yay. I'm so glad. Thank you. That's fantastic. Very, very good, everyone. Kara?
Good. It felt really good. My question is, when I went to send it to my, okay, I've changed my parents, so they look different and they act different. But when I did this, it went to the way they used to be.
Good. Okay. So that's okay. How did that feel when you did that, when it went to the way they used to be and you were filling them with that love?
It felt good.
Good.
Yeah.
So what that is, so you've created the new reference, but what's brilliant now is that you have, you've shined light into the darkness of the old reference. And so that will transform. And what you may find, especially if you practice that a little bit and then after sleeping, you may find there's a shift there in how your parents are represented. Does that help a bit? Yeah. Good job. And so, you know, what we do with, what I do with my own memories is, because I use, of course, the superpower all the time, that's, you know, that's my state. When it comes to changing negative memories, this is the state that is there all the time. So when I go, you know, when I talk about, like with Steve, you know, in the beginning when we first met and we were helping each other with finding different memories and that, when I would come up with a link and I go, oh yeah, because when I was a child, I remember now that I had this, you know, whatever it was, I was told that, come, hurry up, hurry up. Everything was about hurrying up. There was no, you know, it wasn't relaxed. It was very, we were always being pushed and chivied. As I talk, as I say those words, my brain is automatically sending unconditional love to the whole lot, and then it changes. So that's what you want, ideally, is that as you come up with these negative memories, you're able to shine light into them, and they change much quicker and easier.
Great.
All right, good job. Thank you for sharing that. All right, so any other questions or, oh, is that when we did the parents, something definitely shifted to so much light and love. Yay. I felt the oneness and happiness. Super great. Wow, loved it very much. Thank you so much. That's wonderful to hear. Thank you for that feedback, sweetheart. Excellent. And I have to leave. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend. Very good. And love that so much. Sounds like forgiveness. So it's part of the forgiveness, and as you do that, and then the ultimate forgiveness is changing the memories, so that whatever there was, so that there's nothing to forgive. So let's say my, you know, my family member betrayed me. And now, so I do the unconditional love and all of that. And then when I change that memory to where they didn't betray me, that's the ultimate forgiveness. So, so that's fantastic. Excellent. I am so grateful for this wonderful insight into this relationship with my mother. There was resistance to giving to my mom. Fantastic, Katrina. Well done. I'm so glad about that. And keep doing that. And give yourself extra sleep so your brain can process it as well, can process all of that information. Yay. Well done, everyone. Oh yes. And on the topic of sleep and memories and that, and it's another good reason for practicing your new memories before you go to bed, before you go to sleep, because your brain will be doing more of the processing while you're asleep, do more of that new memory consolidation. So, and the same goes for if you're learning anything, like when I was a singer, when I learned a new song, lyrics, I would do the lyric, practice the lyric, try and learn the lyrics, and during the day, whenever, and then I would run through them. I'd actually read them just before going to bed. And the next day when I woke up, I found it was much easier to recall them than it had been the day before when I was actually working on them. And that's because the brain consolidates that information overnight. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Love you all.
Odille, just a clarification, same link for next week.
Oh, yes.
Everybody.
Thank you. I forgot it's Friday. So we will be continuing next week because this seems to be, going well. We're enjoying it. We're so grateful to be able to connect with all of you. We're so enjoying it. So I will create a new booking link. It will be the same Zoom link. So you can just click on that link and come in. The reason I create the booking link is if you want the reminder emails. So if you book your ticket through Eventbrite, there are emails set up that come an hour before and 20 minutes before that have the Zoom link in them, and that makes it easier. So you can just click on that link. It's right at the top of your email. So that's the answer to that, and I'll send that booking link out to everyone. Next week, yay! Thank you. You're very welcome. You're very welcome, and we'll miss you over the weekend. We look forward to seeing you on Monday. All right. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone. Lots of love to all of you. Bye.